Well, greetings from the apocalypse. This week in the studio, we went even further with our termination project. Alexis is making beautiful tubing terminations for her chain. So last time we showed you how to saw them in beautiful little sections. And then this week, we're gonna saw the little end on one side to actually make it a cap instead of just a tube. So wait, cap, one end. So I'll show you how to do that, which is really simple. And I also wanted to just give you all a really quick update on the Jewelry Art Seal of Approval. I've been having so much fun. Tevel and I, we've been on the phone like a million times a day, every day. And he's been hunting down the best stuff. I've got the first kit, which is just all about like cleaning up bezels, which is like your one of your real basic skills that you use over and over again. And the right file and the right sandpaper, and I'm going to show you the correct methods. And I also want everyone to know that my whole goal is to get you the tools that you actually need. Now, good tools are sometimes more expensive, it's true, but being able to pick and use the things that are actually what you need is really what saves you money in the end. Because I mean, I know I fell victim to it so many times when I was a beginner. You just be like, oh my God, these look amazing. And you get them and you never use them. Now, the world won't end if you do that. But what I'm concentrating on for the Jewelry Art Seal of Approval is I'm focusing on the techniques you use most often. So then the tools that you're gonna use every day. And as time goes by and we've covered all of that stuff and you have all the basics you need, then we can get into the stuff that like, this does this cool thing, but it only does this one thing, kind of a thing. And then you can, that's a lot of use of the word thing. Apologize for that. But we can get into stuff like that, and we will, but we're gonna start laying the groundwork by like, these are the tools you're gonna pick up 1,000 times a day and that are gonna make your life easier. So that you spend your money wisely. Because I mean, jewelry making, as you well know, is not inexpensive. But using your money wisely and choosing the things that you're going to use often, that money's going to be really well spent. And that's really the goal. Because I can't tell you how many times I've talked a student out of getting like a really expensive piece of equipment, like thousands and thousands of dollars, when they don't even have a decent file or a decent pair of tweezers. So that's gonna be my focus on the hand tools that make your life easier. And then as time goes by, we'll get into like all the other stuff that's just like, goes into the category of treat yourself, you know what I mean? So at any rate, I'm working very hard on it. I'll give you a tiny little preview that Tevel actually found me a bench that got me excited. He said, like, Jeanette, what about benches? And I said, I don't want to talk about benches. I hate benches. They're not made for women. It's a problem with their boobs. And I always just tell people to get a desk and whatever. And he's like, okay, well, just let me send you this link. And he showed me this bench. Holy fucking shit. I think I'm going to have to get one. But that's just a little sneak preview. And everything that we find that I like, that's tested by me, will eventually make its way onto the site. So you'll be able to, choose among things that I think are really, really helpful. So that's my update. I'm working really hard on it. And, it's the funnest project ever because, everyone at my studio has what we call FAF syndrome, the fussy as fuck. And so we all love nothing more than like taking a tool and analyze it. How could it be better? What's good about it? What's bad about it? What would make it perfect? So we're all basically having the times of our lives, picking everything apart and picking our favorites. So at any rate, on to the tubing, which I think is tubing part 9 at this point. There's gonna be like a million parts to this. So enjoy, and we'll be talking again soon.
You're on. So we're soldering the little caps on our beautiful terminations that's going to go on Alexis's chain. So we already did this one naughtily and didn't record it. So now we're going to do another one and record it. So we've got our little tube, you see, and it's sanded nice and flat on the bottom. We have a little back sheet, which is what, 26 gauge? 26 gauge back sheet, and it's just, pressed flat. And we're gonna solder it right onto there, and then we're gonna trim the excess, and then we'll have a cute little cap. So I'm gonna move this just a little closer to me, like so. You see how it sits on there very nicely? We have about 1,000 pieces of solder here, which is probably a little more than we need, but
I'm going to be doing 4 of these.
But being prepared is never a bad thing. So I'm just going to take a couple small pieces, dip them in a little paste box, and I'm just going to put them in the front where I can see. It's never really a good thing to have solder where you can't see it because it always does something naughty. Normally, just heating from the one side is enough to completely fill it in, but if it isn't, we can always add a little bit more. It's sort of the opposite of a watched pot never boils. It's like unwatched solder always does something very naughty. But yeah, these 3 is probably plenty to fill the whole thing. Okay, so you see, as long as they're up against the wire and I can see them, it doesn't really matter so much where they are. You know, if they roll together, it makes no difference. So I'm going to use a 00 tip. I'm going to dry it off a little bit. My tweezers are here in case something, you know, hops out of the way. Like that. Because really, I have to keep my heat really focused on the back sheet right here. If I heat up on the tube, the solder will want to run up that rather than attaching in between. Okay? And here it goes. Okay. Now you see that flowed all the way around. Because you know, if you have a reasonably tight seam and you get it really good and hot and you use paste box, when you heat it, it's just going to draw that solder all the way around. Now, once we pickle it, if for any reason there were to be a pit or whatever, we would just add a little more solder. But that's it. So they're all beautiful and soldered, as you can see. But again, if there were to be a hole, we would just add a little more solder using the same exact procedure. So now I'm just going to trim them. I'm going to use my Joyce Chens, you know, because they cut fabulously. Okay, so I'm just going to hold it.
You could do that too.
And the key is when you're cutting something like this, keep the blades parallel to the side of what you're cutting so that you don't want to, in other words, do like this and tilt it, because then you can get carried away and cut into your piece, which will make you very, very sad. Because the thing of it is, I don't want to cut far away. I want to cut right up against it so that I can go right to filing and be efficient. But you want to make sure you don't cut into it. So that's how you make sure, by making sure your blades are parallel to the side of whatever you're trimming. Just like when you're doing a bezel or anything else like this. Okay, so you see, I've cut really pretty close, but you can go straight to a file at this point. Now the rules for filing this are, do you have a wider file? Ah, beautiful. Just like with anything else, you're going to let the file do the work. You don't want to tense up or anything. And since this is curved, we're just going to let the file kind of glide along. Okay?
It's okay, just do one side and we'll figure out a way.
Yep, don't miss. And you see, it's not done yet, but you see what happens, how it starts to blend in. Okay? And basically, we're going to do that for both of them and get it all spiffed up, little sandpaper maybe, and then we'll get ready to put our some jump rings on. Okay?